Welcome back to Worship Tech Booth Makeover, featuring our tech booth here at South Fellowship Church. Yes, it has been a while since we've updated you with our upgrades in this tech booth. Quite honestly, not a lot of major things have changed. It's been mostly just a lot of optimization and refinement, but boy, do we have a long list of things to update you on today. So grab a bag of popcorn, a glass of eggnog for this Christmas edition of Worship Tech Booth Makeover, featuring myself behind the camera, Jay Goslin, and Adam Baranek. He's going to walk us through this list of a lot of little nerdy things that I think you guys will appreciate. So, what's number one?
One, we don't have a colored on white card table for our broadcast booth anymore. Yeah. We have this this nice solid wood and pipe and fitting desk, standing desk height. So super clean, smaller than the other desk that we had, but it fits everything that we need it to, especially because we have stuff mounted now. So these monitors are all on mounts. Instead of having the big TV stands behind the table. And then this rack here, undermounted, this little 4U rack. So we've got everything tucked into there. So just everything is a lot cleaner. Like in the last video we talked about, we figured out what we wanted to do, and now we have it cleaned up and kind of finalized the state of it. I'm sure things will change more.
Yeah, and just to remind you guys, this table is pretty much for our broadcast setup. So we have our broadcast audio station is on the left, and then the video is on the right. So this is our broadcast team spot back here.
Yeah. So while we're at this position, this hasn't changed a whole lot. We updated the Touchable app, looks a little better. Ableton now opens to a default set now that we have things set pretty well. Just when you open Ableton for the first time, it pulls up the right template. So that's pretty slick.
We'll make a more in-depth video specifically about our Ableton broadcast template later on, so stay tuned for that.
Yeah, and then with video, we just have this laptop, and then for audio monitoring, instead of having an extra audio interface and headphone splitter that introduced noise to the signal, we have Dante Via on this laptop, and it's receiving the broadcast mix from the wing, so it's just the 2-channel stereo mix from Ableton broadcast mix, and then it's outputting to the headphone jack. So no extra audio interface needed. If they want to listen, they can just pop on headphones and hear what the broadcast mix is.
Yeah, and explain to them kind of how we cleaned up that video director spot too. We used to have like another monitor, but kind of why did we simplify it?
Yeah, because the person that's doing this job here, when they are mixing video, they're cutting video, and so all they need to see is the multicam view, and sometimes they need to see the ProPresenter just to see, what slide we're on or what's up next. So instead of having an extra monitor, we're just using this laptop monitor to view what's happening on ProPresenter through Apple Screen Share.
Yeah, before we used to have the ATEM control software on that computer's main monitor and then have the other one for Screen Share, but then we're like, wait, they don't even really need to use ATEM software control. Yeah. They can do everything they need to do on the Stream Deck throughout the service. So just less is more. That's kind of the theme we keep running into with a lot of these different workstations is like, let's just do obviously hit our goals with what we're trying to go for, but with the least amount of gear possible to keep it simple.
Yep, yeah, and just having this Stream Deck, this larger one that has all the buttons necessary, you don't have to use the ATEM software control, and if they do, they can just 4-finger swipe over to access it and get to everything they need to. So that and a lot of cable cleaning up happened here as well. So at front of house here, the last video that we had we had a 9-year-old MacBook Pro that officially died. So now we have a Mac Mini for our broadcast or our front of house audio virtual sound check machine. So this machine allows us to do multi-track audio and play it back. At the beginning of every rehearsal, we record half of a song or maybe a verse and a chorus, and then the person running front of house flips the inputs to the virtual sound check, and then the band is able to make all the adjustments that they need to on their in-ears, which is super convenient because during a song, to make adjustments on your in-ears, you have to stop playing, which messes everyone else's mix up. So just really convenient way to speed up the rehearsal and sound check process. Then you can also access Planning Center, and whoever's running front house is kind of the tech director, so they get to see everything that's happening and be prepared for what's coming up next.
Yeah, so now we have a total of 4 M1 Mac Minis in this tech booth. We've got a ProPresenter one that's at this ProPresenter machine. We've got one for our virtual sound check. We've got one at our lighting, and this also can run ProPresenter. And then we've got one back here for our Ableton broadcast rig. So 4 Mac Minis, and then we just have that older MacBook Pro back there just running the screen share app in Dante Via. So pretty simple. But just to show you guys, I know it's tempting whenever you see these new MacBook Pros and iMacs come out and think, oh, I need to spend $5,000 to run ProPresenter for worship. It's like, no, you don't. You could buy like more than 5 Mac Minis for various activities in your tech booth. I would actually rather have my computing tasks spread out amongst multiple computers rather than one. So then if something fails, it's not going to take down all of your apps. It's going to, just be one of your apps, and you'll have more reliability and redundancy there. So we've been almost using these computers for almost a year now. It was about February, I think we started swapping them out. So about 10 months. And so far, so good, guys. Like we of course have run into some compatibility issues with, especially getting Dante virtual sound card to work on the M1s. Dante Via kind of works now, but Audinate's taking forever. That still hasn't changed, but we found workarounds for it. So I did want to make note of this cool setup. So when you're running front of house, it is so nice to have this little monitor right here. Adam found a little wall mount that's holding it up here behind the tech booth. So then when I'm running sound, or Adam's running sound, or volunteers running sound, we can obviously see Ableton for virtual sound checks. And then can you just swipe over a window there? The trackpad's right there. Or I have my Planning Center plan up right there, so I know it's coming up next in the service. Other cool application for this could be, let's say we're running screen share app on our Trax rig computer that's on stage. Then me as a sound guy, I can see what's going on in their Ableton session. I could even control it, or jump around to a song or trigger something if our worship leader doesn't want to. So I actually think this is a very underrated computer and what you can do with it as a front of house sound person.
So then on this computer, we also love the CalDigit. The docks, the Thunderbolt docks, but we don't really need one at ProPresenter anymore because we have the 3-slot Sonnet Echo Express. And so we had an open slot. I just put a 4-port USB card in there, and then the CalDigit was unnecessary. So that was one of the things that's kind of more behind the scenes that they cleaned up our process here. And then another kind of nerdy thing, the tech director checklist in the morning was a little too long for us, so we decided to do some automation. We have the home application, just the Apple HomeKit here, and then we have a bunch of plugs, and all of these TVs are HomeKit compatible, so all of our multi-view TVs for in the tech booth, and then all of our lobby TVs, out in the lobby, there are 5 of them. They all turn on at like 6:50 before the service, or the multi-views turn on at like 6:15 a.m. And then our cameras turn on at 6:15 a.m. because our 4 cameras are on plugs that turn on and turn off when we want them to. The temperature is also automated. So we've automated a lot of things and removed some stuff from our checklist in the morning.
Yeah, or just tired of walking around turning things on when you have to. So yeah, just show them real quick. Like this is HomeKit, so the TV, like do the multi-views.
Yeah, so here's our multi-view. Turn it on and off.
Yep, just to power down.
Same thing for...
And then I can power on. Yep. TVs are kind of slow to respond, but there it goes. It's powering back on. And we have our multi-views, so why have to take a remote and point it at the TV and turn them all on when you can just click a couple buttons?
Turn the camera on and off. So,
yeah, especially with cameras, it's a pain to like walk around the room and turn all the cameras on.
So something new since the last update is the ProPresenter macros. So we have another video on that, but use case for our actual church that we serve at. We have a lot of macros. We have one for setting up the scrolling announcements. So, here you can see we have 5 different things like stage display, the look, some timers that start so that it shows up on the screens before the service begins. And then we have a bunch of lighting ones. So we're triggering light key with ProPresenter. For our sermon, we have it so that the lights turn on to the right level, and we have the stage display change for the teaching pastor, and we have all that stuff happen all at once with macros, which is way better than adding like 8 different cues to one slide at a time. And then with our bumper video, this is my favorite thing about using the macros and kind of an automation thing is when we hit the bumper video, it changes the lights in the room, it changes the stage display, and then as soon as the bumper video is over, it automatically goes to the first slide of the sermon, so the lights turn on, the stage display changes, and all of it happens automatically.
Auto-magically.
Yep. So behind here, we have a hard drive, and this is a 14 terabyte hard spinning disk drive, so it's slower, but it's great for backup, just so that we're not storing everything on our local drives. So there's a lot of data. We have our virtual sound check machine, our broadcast machine, all collecting 48 channels of audio. So whenever those drives get full, we can just drag them onto this drive here, which is networked. So on any computer, you can access this drive. So for an example, if we go to our broadcast computer, we have our hard drive here. If we want to pull stuff over, say we have an archive, we don't need the 21st anymore, so I'm going to pull it onto our South Fellowship Media hard drive. Another thing that we already had and updated or improved was our crowd mics. So before we had 2 shotgun mics up at the front of the stage pointing out, and they were pretty far from the congregation. And so now we have 3 crowd mics that are a lot closer to the congregation. So we have one on each side of the room and then one in the center. So I'm not sure if you'll be able to see it on the camera. But right here, about 3 feet, 4 feet above people's heads, we have this condenser microphone. So we have each of those about that height, and it just gives us a much cleaner sound for our congregation, and that's just important for this church to be able to include that in the broadcast mix to make people feel more like they're there and to help people feel like they're singing along with the entire congregation. So yet another thing that we already had and cleaned up was the SD8s, the stage boxes that we use. So we have one over at drums and then one here for vocals and guitars and tracks and everything. So before we had it just on the stage and everything was plugged into it. It was a little messy. So now we have it inside this rack. It's racked up. And also in this rack is a interface on a shelf. So if Dante's not working or we wanted to switch over to using the interface for something like keys or electric guitar, then that is in there and it's pre-plugged in, ready to go as a backup.
Yeah, if you guys look at previous videos, you'll see that the stage box used to be like right there in the corner of the platform. This platform has no stage pockets or anything like that to plug things into. So usually we just have 2 vocal mics running down here to this box. And whereas before we actually used to have some mic cables running all the way back here, backstage into the back room there, and it was just a mess of cables. So now, with the stage box, it's just a digital connection of one Ethernet cable that's running backstage.
Another thing that is cleaned up or you might find missing if you watch other videos is a P16 right here. So we only have one wireless in-ear unit system for whoever the main worship leader is, and instead of using the P16, we now have the Wing Q app all set up and routed so that whoever's leading worship gets more complete control of their mix, which is really handy because if you're leading worship, you're actively acting as the music director as well. So you really need to hear the entire band so that you can direct them. So it's just been really convenient to have that more complete control over your in-ear mix as you're leading worship. It also cleans up the stage with not needing the P16 there. So the congregation mics that we showed you earlier were actually the old choir mics, and they were used the same way. They were hung from the ceiling, but again, they weren't close enough and we weren't getting the exact sound that we wanted. So now we have these new choir mics, these Audix MI250Bs. So we'll link those, but
The micro booms. Audix micro booms is the name. And I just love how thin they are. Like this carbon fiber boom, you're paying for that and the little microphone on the end that's about the size of a cigarette. They are super cardioid condenser mics. That means, since they're facing Adam, they'll only pick up really the noise coming from him and reject a lot of the sound coming from the other direction. And then you just put them on a regular mic stand or like a short one like we have there. It depends on how high you want to place them above your choir. But they are amazing choir mics. I used these at a previous church I was at that had a choir all the time. So when Aaron told us we were going to have a week or two with choir here at South, and hopefully it'll become a kind of regular thing because it really adds to the dynamic of our worship gatherings, even with modern worship songs. I was like, man, we got to get these mics because they can really pick up the choir really, really well. And of course, we have two of them to have a stereo pickup of the choir.
Yeah, and it's really easy to get a high quality recording of the choir because we have electronic drums, so there's no stage noise there. And then just recently, all of our guitarists have finally made the official switch over to HX stomps. So whenever someone's leading worship, they're using an HX stomp if they're playing electric, and then all of our electric guitarists use either the Podgo or the HX stomp. So we have a completely silent stage, which makes the choir mics just work even better.
All right, that wraps up this episode of Worship Tech Booth Makeover. Thanks for watching, guys. Leave a like and subscribe if you found any helpful ideas or tips in today's video. And check out worshipministryschool.com if you would like to have Adam, and sometimes myself, as your personal worship ministry and tech ministry coach. That's all for this video. See you next time.